So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Vampire? So let's start the series. As he reached for the forbidden scroll, Naruto chuckled to himself, not realizing that no other genin could have pulled this off because he was much more stealthy than average. After all, running and hiding from villagers who want to kill you will do that, and running and hiding from shinobi and kunoichi, SP? Who want to catch you for a prank will also increase your natural stealth and speed. It also helped that a traitorous Chunin placed several genjutsu on the guards. He was about to grab the scroll when the door started to open behind him, naturally panicked, grabbed the scroll, and ran for the window. He didn't have to worry about the Hokage sexy because no jutsu had taken care of him. He leaped out the window and was on his way. He rapidly learned Kagebushin no Jutsu, and when someone yelled at him, Naruto startled. He placed down the prohibited scroll in his lap and smiled as he let it unroll all the way down, not noticing the glass vial that rolled out of the scroll's bottom and wound up at the base of a neighboring tree. Naruto grinned broadly and asked, "What do you think you're doing?" "Haha, Irika-sensei, I guess I found you." Naruto continued to smile and said, "Yeah, wait, what the hell, I found you, idiot." Irika scowled, sensed that something wasn't quite right. "Oh, I guess you did. Anyway, I guess I can be a genin now, huh?" "What are you talking about, Naruto?" "Mizuki-sensei told me if I got the forbidden scroll and learned one technique I would be able to become a genin." Irika, why did you save the demon brat, huh?" "Oh well, I'll just kill you both and take the scroll," Irika said, his eyes widening as he barely felt anything and lunging forward to tackle Naruto to the ground as an enormous shuriken sliced through the area he had just occupied. "What, you're the traitor? Why did you bring Naruto into this?" Mizuki smiled as he created another enormous shuriken and hurled it toward Naruto, saying, "Felt like it." As the weapon drew closer, Naruto kept his eyes open and cried out in defiance, "It won't end like this, it can't end like this, I'm gonna be Hokage." Suddenly, something blurred in front of his eyes, and he heard a grunt. A warm, sticky substance splattered onto his left cheek and forehead. He looked up and was completely taken aback to see Irika's smiling face staring down at him. He muttered, "Run, Naruto, run now please." Naruto shook his head and hurried past Irika, spotting the shuriken behind his father figure. He glared and turned to face Mizuki. The traitor simply laughed when Naruto yelled, "You hurt Irika-sensei again and I'll kill you." When he got close to Mizuki, he gave him a hard backhand and slammed into a tree. He thought he heard glass break, but he ignored it because he suddenly remembered the technique he had learned. He made a single seal and collected his chakra, and both Mizuki and Irika looked at him as he called out a technique. Irika watched in amazement, and Mizuki would have shit himself, but he was too scared even for that. Let's just say the outcome was unpleasant. The kid was truly something. Neither of them noticed the last strands of a black substance that was absorbed into some exposed skin on his back. Irika grinned and called Naruto over to him, saying, "Okay, close your eyes." He laughed at Naruto's shocked expression when he realized that the forehead protector he was now wearing was Irika's. Irika laughed aloud as Naruto embraced him. After talking with the Hokage and going over everything, Naruto stumbled into his apartment. He must have been more exhausted than he realized because his excitement about becoming a genin had caused him to forget about the glass breaking in the forest. He moaned as his stomach rolled over, and only then did he realize how much he was sweating. He started stripping down to his boxers when he cried out in pain and fell to the floor, curling up and shivering and drenching until unconsciousness overtook him. With a little something more added, Naruto's mindscape. When Naruto woke up, he was surrounded by water and thought, "What the hell?" He looked around and heard faint voices that sounded like they were arguing. He followed the voices until he came to a steel door, where they were louder but still muffled. He slowly opened the door and silently thanked whoever was watching over the midgets everywhere that the door didn't make a sound as it opened, but then he heard the voices shouting. The first voice was deep, booming, and intimidating, saying, "I'll tell you one more time, you slimy fucker, this is my vessel, get the hell out." The second voice sounded almost like two different people speaking simultaneously, with a deep growl and a slightly higher-pitched human voice. The overall effect was one of something menacing and dangerous, something that lurks in the shadows. "It's not my fault you're in here, and if I leave now I'm dead, so go fuck yourself for a ball. Look at it this way now he's even better." Naruto grinned slightly. The argument had been way over his head, and the language had been terrible for his young mind. He only used hell, damn, and crap, but it seemed like they were embarrassed to be caught in the act. He gasped as he entered the room and saw that there was no one there, a huge cage-like set of bars set into the wall, and large black wires running across the bars and in the corners. Naruto shook his head, dismissing the idea that they resembled enormous spider webs. He screamed and fell onto his butt into a puddle, just as a huge pair of glowing red eyes appeared behind the bars. Slowly, a huge red fox with rabbit ears and 9 swishing tails emerged, and he exclaimed, "KKK Kyubi, you dead?" "Oh well, that explains a lot. I'm not letting you out," Kyubi said, waiting for his container to explode. "No Kit, I'm surprised one of those bastard villagers didn't tell you. The fourth sealed me inside of you, he couldn't kill me, no mere human can." Kyubi's jaw hit the floor. He hadn't been expecting that. As he recovered, Naruto asked another question, "Whose was the other voice?" Kyubi flinched and began to mutter to himself. Naruto's head whipped round as he saw movement out of the corner of his eye. He gasped as the cobwebs on the wall gathered together and a man stepped out. He was tall, he had blonde hair and had stubble on his cheeks and jaw. He smiled at Naruto. He was wearing a simple white t-shirt, scuffed jeans and black sneakers. He began to speak. "Hello Naruto, you've met Kyubi your furball." Naruto snickered at this while said furball growled, "This form you see here is merely a remnant of my last human host, a man named Eddie Brock. He managed to get me back from a man named Mac Gregan who had for a time been my host. Eddie died of extreme old age due to the fact he bonded with me completely. He lived for almost 500 years. We did much good in the world fighting evil where we found it protecting the innocent." Naruto nodded and smiled at the man. He didn't entirely get what he had said, but he was obviously a hero of some sort. "Naruto, do you understand that this form I'm speaking to you in isn't what I am? This is," with that he gestured to the black substance he had come from. Naruto's jaw dropped. The man continued, "I have entered your body, I am a symbiote. Do you understand this word?" Naruto answered with a firm negative. The man breathed deeply. "I am a being that can no survive by itself. I can only survive in either a chosen host. You are a specially made container which you broke, leading me to enter you." Kyubi added, filthy parasite, to his thoughts. "I am not a parasite. Ahem. Anyway, a parasite lives in and feeds of the host, eventually destroying or harming it. This is what my race used to do until they were destroyed by a really evil guy. For those of you who are unaware that Venom actually murdered every symbiote on the planet, I am a symbiote. What a symbiote does is uses its host to survive, but also makes the host far stronger than the average of its kind. You scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of thing. Anyway, if you accept me, we can merge. The entire merging process will take 2 years, but the immediate benefits are well worth the wait." Naruto took in all of the details, which was a lot and somewhat challenging to comprehend. Okay, what do I get out of this?" The man entered a standard thinking position. Superhuman strength, durability, speed, reflexes, flexibility and agility, ability to crawl on walls and ceilings like a spider, make webs like a spider as weapons, shields, etc., ability to shapeshift into other beings for a time, a suit made of my substance which increases all those abilities again, accelerated healing factor, also a slight amount of precognition, which is a split-second warning of danger. The durability will allow you to withstand normal blades, but special ones that have advanced properties can still hurt and kill us. We are also affected by sound and fire. Both are dangerous to us, but only in the full form. I get fire but sound? Yeah, but don't worry, only really high-pitched sounds or incredibly loud sounds like you standing next to a ringing church bell. What's a church? Ah, the temple bell. Oh, okay. Naruto's expression went from confused to ecstatic to worried to even more joyful than Madoka giving one of his speeches while under the influence of ecstasy and on an acid trip, then back to worried. Hey Slimeball, I could call you insulting but highly truthful names for all eternity, but what's your name? The QB remained silent throughout this entire ordeal because he already knew what a symbiote could do. After all, you learn a lot when you're a 10,000-year-old demon. Oh, it's Venom if you must know. Oh, that reminds me, Naruto, when you use the suit you will be in control at all times. Originally when the host put on the whole face thing, this he demonstrated by covering himself in the suit and becoming the classic Venom. You would merge with me for that time, and we would talk in the second person. Instead of I will kill you, it would be we will kill you. However, Eddie overcame that problem. Now it will only happen if you're feeling a strong emotion. Say if you're a little ticked off or annoyed, nothing will happen, you will be you. But if you say go postal or blow a gasket, we merge. Got me so far? Naruto nodded and asked his final question, why was I so jittery and sick before? Oh well, you see, I kinda went ahead and began the merger already. QB growled. Idiot, he's my host. You didn't ask either of us. Yeah, Venom, you could have asked first. Sorry fellas, Naruto sighed. It had been a long night and he could feel consciousness calling. Bye guys, I guess I'll chat with you later so I can learn how to use this stuff. Both nodded in affirmative as he faded from sight. He's smarter than I thought, both said in unison. They got into an argument about who actually said it. No, Ibiki isn't working on anyone today and Anko is on a mission, Sarutobi remarked dismissively as his head popped up from his papers. He then returned to his dreaded paperwork. Yes, the scream was full of that much fear and future anguish and pain. What's wrong with him? You don't want to know, Venom, trust me, okay. As all of this was going on, Naruto was lying in a corner in the fetal position, trembling as if someone had taped his eyes open, tied him to a chair, and given Guy and Lee a list of reasons why youthfulness is a good thing. At last, he whimpered quietly and got up to get dressed when two synchronized Hell-NOS said, "What?" "Watch," Naruto gasped as he watched the same black substance that the symbiote was made out of extend out of his navel and cover him all over except his face. It began to form into clothes. He ended up with a white long-sleeved shirt, black slightly baggy pants. He had black combat boots and a long ankle-length black trench coat. He somehow knew of a white leaf symbol between his shoulders on the back. He also had black gloves with a white leaf symbol on the back. He barely noticed due to its weightlessness that he was wearing a wide hat. What is this thing? He thought, fingering the brim. Oh, I saw this uniform once in a manga. The hat is called a fedora. Also the color scheme is different. Naruto nodded. It was also black. For those of you who know, this is Alucard's clothes from Hellsing the manga. Look it up for reference. His blonde hair was straighter, still spiky at the front, but had somehow tamed itself as it went back and had grown to his shoulders. Naruto smiled wide. He loved it. It was cool yet practical, and since it was made of the symbiote, he was stronger while wearing it. Good idea, said his tenants simultaneously. Oh Kit, don't forget the transfer thing. Venom makes you stronger but also adds the natural strength I would give you on top of his additions, so you're stronger than any host of Venom before you. Also, about the pheromone thing, do yourself a favor and indulge your more perverted side and flirt with girls. Naruto listened to Kyuubi's advice and nodded, liking everything there was to say. Oh Naruto, before I forget, included in Venom, my next host will have all the abilities that you have as well as mine. Why? Because it's part of my survival mechanism. I can't help it. I copy your natural abilities, so I won't be copying jutsus, but I will copy the advantages the fox gives you into myself and apply them to my next host. It's why you can crawl on walls. My first host could do that naturally, said the symbiote. Oh, okay. QB entered the discussion and said, Hey Kit, Venom, I have a question. What is it, Fuzzball? The demon fox snarled, Grr, could you leave Naruto or have a part of yourself leave and copy abilities from some other person? Yes, that would be simple. A piece of me could enter them for a few minutes and then come back, and about an hour afterwards you'd get the abilities, said Venom. QB, are you talking about copying bloodlines? Yep, and I could speed up the process. How? You could say copy the Uchiha's bloodline even though he hasn't activated it yet, and I could use my chakra to advance it to its ultimate level. Whoa, cool, how many could I get? Naruto exclaimed, briefly forgetting to say, all of them, Kit. Wow, he said in a voice of amazement. He smirked as he looked at his watch and then gasped, you guessed it, he was late. He ate a quick meal of instant ramen and left the house, tying his forehead protector on as a belt. He ignored the glares as usual, but he enjoyed the shocked expressions that met him on his way to the academy. Iruka sighed and said, "You're late, Naruto." Then the door smashed open, and he saw the shocked looks on the students' faces. He turned to the door and barely held back a gasp. Naruto wasn't wearing the orange jumpsuit that screamed, "I'm over here, kill me." He was dressed entirely in black, with white accents that oddly contrasted with the rest but also worked well together. Iruka looked at his outfit, which was nice, but it looked intimidating and could conceal the wearer in a variety of situations if the wearer was intelligent. At that moment, he noticed that Naruto was much taller, and several of the girls in the class, with the exception of Sasuke Uchiha's ardent admirers, had almost hungry looks in their eyes. When Iruka considered the mayhem that would have resulted from this change occurring earlier in the year, he trembled. His head jerked up as a loud thud sounded from the class's final row, suggesting that Hinata had passed out. Iruka laughed and pondered whether Naruto would ever notice her crush. As the class gasped in surprise, Naruto chuckled to himself, "Hey Naruto, how did you pass?" Shikamaru asked from the back of the room. Naruto took a last-minute improvised extra credit test that he passed, and Kiba's voice echoed throughout the room, "Hey, what's with the new look, loser? You're trying to look cool, huh? And how the hell did you get taller?" Akamaris barks in two simultaneous cries, "No one is cooler than my Sasuke-kun." The rest of the class, including Kiba, were shocked to hear Naruto speak so calmly and composedly. They thought that since he was a ninja, he could stop acting like a dickhead. They also activated his bloodline, which they didn't know I had, and I'm not sure if it started with me. Hinata, on the other hand, was thrilled because she had known for years that Naruto had been wearing a mask to conceal his intelligence and pain. She grinned to herself behind her hand, thinking, perhaps Naruto-kun will notice me now. Sakura and Ino had been fighting for a seat after shouting in unison, so Naruto took the seat they were fighting for out of rage. "Naruto, move, I want to sit next to Sasuke, no way, forehead girl, I'm sitting next to Sasuke." Naruto sighed as Iruka yelled for them to be quiet. Sakura won the seat next to Naruto, while Ino was stuck a row behind. "Naruto, move, I want to sit there, no." Everyone who heard were stunned, except for one girl who said, "Yes, I'm on my way to Naruto." No one was more stunned than Sakura. No one noticed that the reason for this argument was watching the loudmouth warily with the heavily concealed hope that someone would save him from his fangirls. What? Iruka stared open-mouthed, thinking that Naruto had caused it, but it happened so quickly that no one could prove it. "Move it, Naruto." "No, and shut up, I'm trying to sleep." Sakura was about to speak again when something flashed in the air, and her head shot backwards, taking her off her chair. The class froze, some wondering what had happened, some thinking that Naruto had hit her, and they were stunned when she got up and attempted to pull a white web-like substance of her face that was conveniently covering her mouth. Sakura gave up trying to pull off the webbing and sat down, glaring at him while breathing through her nose. He leaned over to Sasuke and whispered, "You owe me one." Sasuke gave a barely perceptible nod, facing front, and his attention returned when his name was called. Team 7: Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. There was a loud, muffled squeal at this point, followed by a loud thud and a breaking sound. The class soon saw with horror and wonder that Naruto had slammed his head into his table, shattering it in half. What the hell was his head made? When the other teams were called out, everyone's attention was called forward once more. The Jounins arrived and gathered their teams until only Irika and Team 7 remained. Irika then asked Naruto to meet him for ramen later, but before she could do so, she noticed that the material covering her mouth had begun to peel, so she ripped it off, wincing at the painful sensation. Sakura then moved menacingly towards Naruto, who was still effectively walling off the grateful Sasuke. She screamed and raised her fist, swung, and met nothing but air, staring at him until she realized he had vanished. She looked up and gasped when she saw that he was on the roof on all fours, sticking on somehow. Sasuke realized something wasn't right, but he couldn't place it, so he dismissed it, not realizing that the trenchcoat wasn't affected by gravity. Sasuke smirked as he approached Naruto, who had just crawled down the wall and landed softly on the floor. "How do you have this ability?" he asked, raising or lowering his hands, and something shot out of the top of his wrists, wrapping around Sakura and hauling her to the roof before she had a chance to scream. Sakura, his most fervent fangirl, was pinned to the roof with some kind of strong, sticky rope, which conveniently covered her mouth and muffled her screams. "What?" Sasuke nodded and sat back down, quietly fuming that he had such a seemingly useful bloodline and that he had activated it. "Don't worry, dude," he said, looking up at Naruto. "I managed to activate my bloodline while fighting a thief, which is how I passed. Honestly, the council probably passed me because they want to add another bloodline to Konoha." Sasuke nodded, fully aware of the prestige that came with a bloodline clan, and grinned as the Deadlast was now a noble Deadlast, still not on par with the Uchiha clan but still superior to the others. Sasuke was a little let down, though, because the powers were special and helpful, and if it had other abilities, it was undoubtedly powerful. Only he deserved such power so he could kill his brother, and only clans as old and noble as the Uchiha deserved it. And we all know his sob story, so I won't go into it. He would get the Sharingan, and he would beat Naruto to prove his clan's power. He couldn't care less if Naruto beat others into the ground, but he couldn't surpass the last Uchiha. It was impossible. A few minutes later, he scratched again, and this time he didn't notice that Naruto's smile had grown into a full-fledged grin. "He's here," Naruto said to himself as he awoke from his daze. Their new sensei opened the door and went inside. "Hello, weren't there supposed to be 3 of you?" Naruto simply pointed up. Kakashi looked up and was surprised to see a girl who appeared to be tied to the roof in some way. Can you bring her down?" "I could, but I won't." "Well, why not?" "I put her up there 2 hours ago. I can make the webbing last for only a couple of hours, but that's getting better. She should be down in a few seconds." Suddenly, there was a snapping sound and a muffled scream, and a mass of pink and white fell from the ceiling. Thud, Sakura managed to untangle herself from the webs and sent a death glare at Naruto, who just chuckled and said, "Okay, meet me on the roof." With that, he exploded in a cloud of smoke and vanished. Sasuke and Sakura made their way to the door, but he stopped when he realized Naruto wasn't with them. He looked over his shoulder and stifled a jealous growl as Naruto opened a window and crawled out and up the wall. Kakashi was about to begin his personal preparation for talking to the Genins what he'd tell them and what he wouldn't, when he heard a rustle to his left and was surprised to see Naruto crawling up the wall. The position he was in with his toes and fingertips being the only things touching the wall looked impossible, but he did it easily. He flipped over the railing, landing lightly, and sat himself down in front of the Jounin. He was smiling. "Who did you learn the chakra climbing exercise from?" "No one that was natural as part of my bloodline. I don't know how to use chakra to climb." Kakashi was shocked. He'd never heard of a bloodline that did that, but he was curious, what else does it do? "Well, it makes me like a spider. I can produce webbing, crawl on walls, heal fast. I however need to increase my strength, flexibility and speed as they are integral to the taijutsu style that goes with it." Kakashi nodded his head. Secretly happy that he only had to teach him exercises to increase him physically, he didn't seem interested in learning jutsus from him. He smiled under his mask. Great, less work for me, hee hee, more time for my porn. His dreams were shattered. I also like learning new jutsu. Kakashi hung his head in an instant depression. Okay, introduce yourselves, their new sensei said as soon as the other two arrived, glaring at Naruto, who merely waved at them with a cocky grin. Sensei, why don't you go first so we know what to do? Okay, my name is Kakashi Hatake. I have dislikes and likes. I have many hobbies and I have a dream. The students all thought. We only learned his name, and Sasuke's introduction was punctuated with numerous giggles and glances at him, including a loud "I hate Naruto," which caused the blonde to laugh. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like my friends and ramen. I hate fangirls, emo, and Avengers. My hobbies are learning jutsus training, and my dreams are to master my bloodline and become Hokage, said Sakura. The listeners were shocked for two reasons. First, it was delivered in a calm, precise voice rather than yelling up and down. Second, his ambition was a little unrealistic. Good. Now I want you to meet me at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning at Training Ground 7 to pass the real Genin test. Real Genin test? We already are Genin, yelled Sakura. No, the test just cut out the wannabes. This test is the real one out of all who passed. The rest go back to the academy. Okay, see you then. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll just throw up. He poofed away, leaving three stunned Genin hopefuls. Naruto was the first to recover, and he got up to leave, but Sakura confronted him. Sakura blushed and giggled at this last comment, which caused the pretty boy to look horrified. And I'm dressed like this for two reasons. One, I look good in it. Two, I figured I'd get rid of the jumpsuit and dress like an actual ninja, he said, leaving two stunned teammates behind. I got some questions. What the hell did you tie me to the roof with? Why did you do that? And why are you trying to dress cool? Are you trying to look better than Sasuke? Because no one can do that. Naruto quickly discovered a private training area. He had disregarded the signs indicating restricted area 44. He leaped over the 10-foot fence, clearing it by approximately 40 feet. His clothes seemed to melt back onto his body as he reached the other side, and the melted mess solidified into a skin-tight uniform that revealed his muscles while also having long wire-like protrusions covering him at random places. The material on his head formed a terrifying visage, and a black mask with large, pure white, slanted eyes, a huge mouth full of large, pointed teeth, and a long, slimy tongue made it something even the most formidable opponent would find intimidating. He shot out his web, swinging away up into the trees. He shot around just playing and getting used to the feeling of this new way of transportation. He soon stopped and landed in a clearing. He then noticed his spider sense had activated as he could sense all the life around him, dangerous or otherwise. He willed the face mask away inside it and left his face. There was really no difference. He could breathe and see just like normal with it on, but the breeze on his face was a little refreshing as he could feel it, but not its effects when the mask was up. He walked over to the stream running through the clearing and stared into it. Hey QB, is the Sharingan on yet? Yep, just add chakra to your eyes. Naruto followed instructions and added chakra to his eyes. He gasped when his normal bright blue eyes turned into a blood red color with 3 comma marks surrounding the pupil. Whoa, cool, you said it was going to be at maximum, is this it? No, say the words Mangekyo Sharingan and concentrate some more. Naruto did so and gasped again when the comma marks blended together and formed a web-like pattern in his eye. He deactivated it and smiled. At first he thought about lording it over everyone and copying all the jutsus he could. He then thought it over. Stealing someone's hard work would be wrong, it just wouldn't be right. He wasn't going to be greedy, he would use it against enemies sparingly, and to help him learn jutsus he was being taught easily. He smiled to himself. He had no doubt that was the only real way to learn. He also had no doubt that Sasuke would not follow this path. He would steal all he could to gain more power. He activated it again and called up his battle mask. He smiled to himself when he noticed the only telltale sign was a slight reddish tinge to the large white eyes. As he deactivated it and swung back up into the trees on his way home, he landed lightly on the other side of the fence. He had already deactivated his venom form, as he called it, before he reached the edge, and he was back in his trench coat and fedora. He landed in a crouch, got up, dusted himself off, and left the forest. Without the use of her Byakugan, she was able to see his battle form just before he had changed out of it. Since she had followed Naruto to this training area but had not witnessed him enter the forest, Hinata was at a loss for what to do. She nearly screamed when she saw the creature emerge from the forest, but it had changed into Naruto. She had to discover what it had done to him because she could not allow anything to happen to him. She leaped from her hiding place and pursued the creature that appeared to be Naruto. Naruto sighed as he walked into his house, thinking for a moment that someone had been following him, but he dismissed the thought after it vanished. He went to his dresser and put on some pajamas, but as soon as he opened the door, he was blasted back, landing in a heap after being hit multiple times on his arms and legs. He looked up and gasped when he saw that Hinata had attacked him, and boy did she look angry. "What the hell was that for?" he exclaimed as Hinata charged at him in an unfamiliar battle stance. "What are you and what did you do with Naruto-kun? What are you talking about?" Her voice rose and became more sinister as she said, "I saw you in the forest. You're some kind of monster you turned into Naruto-kun. What did you do with him?" She also seemed to be expressing a great deal of intent to kill. "Hinata, I am Naruto, that was me, please let me explain." He was genuinely afraid of Hinata, who was always shy and timid and strange, but he kind of liked this aggressive Hinata. She raised her fists once more and said, "Humph, okay, talk quickly or I'll seal more of your chakra points." Okay, that thing you saw was me, it's something I can do. I have another creature inside me which can take on certain appearances. The one you saw is its natural or battle body, it makes me stronger and faster," he quickly clarified. Hinata was wary of him. "Come on Hinata, it's me, how can I prove it to you?" "What did you do to Irika-sensei that knocked him out for a few seconds when you were supposed to do a henge?" she asked, still staring at him. He laughed and said, "That's easy. I used my sexy no jutsu which turns me into a naked woman and works against perverts. Shame it worked against Irika-sensei, I thought he was different." Hinata's next move startled Naruto as she abruptly moved forward, but made him blush when he realized she was hugging him and he had no shirt on. He was relieved when he felt her trembling and realized she was crying quietly, but he was unable to embrace her because his arms weren't working. Hinata was still crying quietly into Naruto's chest, not realizing he didn't have a shirt. She gasped when she felt his arms go around her and hold her gently but firmly. "Hinata, why are you crying?" She could hear as well as feel his voice rumble through his chest. I thought you had been hurt, Naruto-kun. "Oh, that's nice. It feels good to know you care." His arms tightened around her and Hinata blushed at his words. Her blush soon covered her entire body as she realized how close they were. "But more importantly, why do you care?" He lifted Hinata of his chest so he could look into her eyes. They both missed each other's closeness and warmth. It's BB because I am kinda Li. She stopped blushing furiously as she couldn't finish her sentence. Naruto frowned as he tried to decipher what she had been trying to say. Suddenly it all clicked. The fainting and nervousness only happened around him. "Hinata, do you like me?" Her head snapped up, looking him right in the eyes. She looked both terrified and hopeful. She nodded very slowly. When he said, "So you're the one who's always following me, I always thought it was ninjas the old man sent to watch out for me?" Hinata hung her head in shame and nodded once more. She gasped when he put his hand on her chin, lifting her head up, and he said, "You know it's cute when you blush." She looked at him and realized she was straddling a shirtless Naruto who had been hugging her for at least 10 minutes. She stared at his muscular chest, causing a hand to make random patterns across his skin without meaning to do so, making him shiver. She froze when she realized what she had been doing. Her nose began to bleed as too many thoughts began to run through her head, and she fainted. She would have fainted again if she had seen that she had fallen against Naruto, her head in the crook of his neck, her lips pressing against his skin. When she stared at his chest, Naruto laughed and shivered with pleasure as she began to run her fingers along it. He smiled knowingly when her nose began to bleed, knowing what it meant to have perverted thoughts. He was about to lift her off himself when his arms fell limp against his sides. Hey, what the hell? Enjoy it while it lasts, Kit. Hey, what's the big idea? Hey, answer me, damn fox, he said aloud to no one. He realized they weren't responding, and he knew he was stuck until his chakra points opened again on their own in a few hours. What the hell, I'll sleep, he said out loud to no one, as Hinata was unconscious. He soon fell asleep because he was comfortable against the wall with the soft but warm Hinata against him. Hinata awoke slowly because she didn't want to leave the cozy warmth of her bed. She had been dreaming that she had slept on top of Naruto, and when she realized that her pillow was much warmer and harder than it should have been and was moving, her wits returned to her. She sat up and saw where she was, and she fainted. Naruto woke up slowly, the lack of warmth rousing him from his sleep. He slowly woke and rubbed his eyes, then it hit him, his arms worked again. He sat up and then noticed Hinata sprawled on the floor. She must have woken up, seen the position, and fainted again, he realized. He grabbed her shoulders, kneeling down next to her, and shook her shoulders. Hinata's eyes snapped open and she sat up quickly. Her surroundings came into focus. She was incredibly close to a pair of deep blue eyes that looked quite shocked. Her lips also felt warm. She almost fainted again when she realized her lips were locked with Naruto's. What kept her from fainting was the fact that he didn't pull away and his lips moved against hers. "Na, Naruto-kun, is he kissing me?" Her eyes closed slowly as their lips began to move. Naruto hugged her to his body as they kissed. He wanted to deepen the kiss but refrained. He almost gasped in surprise when her lips parted and her tongue touched his lips. He opened his lips and her tongue tentatively began to explore his mouth, running along his teeth and exploring his mouth. Hinata's tongue poked his own as it still hadn't moved. He moved his tongue against hers, pushing against it. Their tongues began to battle. Naruto eventually won as it was his turn to explore her mouth. Hinata shivered in pleasure as Naruto's tongue explored her mouth. She sighed as they parted for air. Naruto chuckled as Hinata suddenly looked alarmed. It wasn't a DR dream? He shook his head in a no, and Hinata looked red to pass out. "Hinata, don't faint," he said clearly and loudly, breaking through the haze. "Hinata, could you keep the whole creature inside of me a secret? Of course, Naruto-kun." Hinata was a little worried at his sudden change of expression. It went from a sly look to a concerned look. "Hinata, it's almost 4. I think you should go home." Hinata gasped her father would be mad at her, but she didn't really care. She'd kissed Naruto. "Hinata, could you do me another favor? But it would probably be considered betraying your clan if you do this." "Well, what is it, Naruto-kun?" Naruto grimaced. Earlier he had no problem doing this to Sasuke, but he was an asshole. Hinata was someone he cared about, some he'd just rather passionately kissed. "My symbiote can copy bloodlines. Could I maybe copy yours?" Hinata frowned. It would be betraying her clan, but her father had disowned her and all but name. What should she care? Do it. Her voice as firm and commanding as it had been when she attacked Naruto, thinking he was some sort of monster. Naruto smiled. He grabbed her arm gently and rolled up her sleeve. He touched her skin with the index finger of his right hand. The tip became shrouded in a black substance that spread onto Hinata's skin, vanished into her. Hinata gasped. It had left slight itchy feeling on her skin. She resisted the urge to gasp. "This will take a few minutes." Hinata nodded and sat back, perfectly willing to wait. "Naruto-kun, how do you know you can copy bloodlines?" "Well, my symbiote told me and I kinda did it already." She looked at him questioningly, her confidence greatly boosted by one kiss with Naruto, allowing her to act like a normal person. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. When he opened them, Hinata gasped. He had the Sharingan, which was fully matured. Hinata had been required to learn all about the different clans and clan bloodlines that Konoha had in the past and currently possessed, so she knew what a fully matured Sharingan looked like. She had also seen a drawing of its ultimate level, the Mangekyo Sharingan. "Do you have its ultimate level?" She gasped again when he smiled and the Sharingan shifted into a spider web pattern. "Naruto, that is amazing." He smiled sheepishly and rubbed the back of his head. She felt the itchy feeling again as the black substance reappeared on her skin. Naruto reached out and it was reabsorbed into him. "How long till you get it?" "About an hour. I'll show you tomorrow after the test I gotta take with my team." Hinata nodded. She felt like groaning when Naruto stood and held out his hand, helping her up. "Naruto, how did you really pass the Genin exam?" Naruto smiled sheepishly. "Well, Mizuki tricked me into stealing the Forbidden Scroll. I learned a technique of it before Irika-sensei arrived. I told him what Mizuki told me, and then Mizuki turned up, attacked us, and I defeated him with the technique I learned." Hinata smiled. That was exactly Naruto's style, to brag about what he would do, not what he had done. "What technique was it, Naruto-kun?" "Kagebushin no Jutsu," Hinata gasped. She had heard of that technique. "Naruto, that's a Jounin level technique. My father mentioned how useful it is, but how difficult it is to use. You have to have a massive amount of chakra to make it practical. Most people could make 2 or 3. How many did you make?" "About 200, Hinata gasped. "Naruto, do you know why it is so useful?" "Yeah, overwhelm the enemy with numbers." Hinata giggled and blushed as she was making fun of Naruto. "Naruto Kagebushins can learn things and then pass on that knowledge to you when you cancel them." Hinata giggled again at Naruto's blank expression, then blushed at the wide, genuine, beaming smile he directed at her. He pulled her into a hug and kissed her cheek. "Thank you, Hinata-chan, that is so cool. I got to go to the library, but Naruto-kun, the library is closed now." "Even better," he replied with a foxy grin that made Hinata blush. "Come on, I'll take you home." Hinata followed Naruto out of his apartment. When they reached the street, he swept her up into a bridal carry and leapt to the nearest roof. Hinata marveled at the speed he was carrying her. She blushed when she realized he hadn't changed. When she looked at him, he was back in the same clothes he had before. He saw her confused look and answered, "The clothes are made of the symbiote." Hinata nodded and activated her Byakugan and looked at the clothes. She gasped. Naruto paused on a rooftop. "What's wrong?" "The symbiote blocks the Byakugan. I can only see the chakra points on your exposed skin." Naruto smiled. "That's cool, means it'd be next to impossible to use against me, right? Wonder if it works against the Sharingan." Hinata didn't interrupt his musings but rather snuggled closer as he started to move again. They soon arrived at the Hyuga compound. Naruto dropped her off. He was about to leave when she pulled him into another kiss. Naruto parted, panting slightly and blushing furiously, almost the same shade of Naruto. He smiled at her and leapt away in the direction of the library. Hinata had few issues because they had landed a short distance from the gates and the guards hadn't noticed her. She entered and was met by her father, who simply told her that she had been training alone. She looked flushed and a little worn out, but he noticed that she wasn't stuttering as much or hunched over as usual, so he dismissed it, saying that even though she might have more confidence, she was still weak. After crawling up the wall and through a small window, Naruto used his newly acquired flexibility to contort himself through the window. He landed inside a setting without any alarms, made a single seal, and spoke a single sentence. Suddenly, there were 400 Narutos in the library. Naruto left the library and went home, with one of them positioning himself outside as a scout. If he saw someone approaching, he would disperse himself so that Naruto and the others would know what was happening and the clones would scatter. Naruto left the library and went home, feeling rather pleased with himself about how much he would learn. As the clones read almost everything in the library, Sarutobi, the third Hokage, watched through his crystal ball. Naruto had learned the benefits of Kagebushin from Hinata, but he would later regret it due to the side effects. Sarutobi, unlike everyone else in Konoha, was aware of the symbiote and knew it had found a host when the glass vial containing it had vanished from the Forbidden Scroll. He also explained how he knew he had been present when it arrived on this world and how it was placed in that enormous vial. Naruto had undoubtedly adapted quickly, and its abilities were amazing. Naruto terminated the remaining clones and moaned as he slumped onto the beat holding his head. He eventually dropped out from knowledge overload after feeling information flood to him as one clone scattered itself, indicating that the library had been read through. After a few minutes of sitting quietly while his headache went away, Naruto got up and began getting dressed, putting on only a pair of shorts and some underwear before wishing his clothes would appear. When he realized he was more than an hour late, he grabbed a few apples from the kitchen counter and fled out the door, where he was soon seen jumping, crawling, and occasionally swinging along the rooftops. Sakura was upset because Sasuke was bothering her, and she thought he might have said, "Where is that dobe?" which was clearly a reference to Naruto. Why was Sasuke thinking about Naruto, and why did he seem to be worried about him? Sakura heard a rustle to her left, and she gasped as he flew through the air, his launching point being 400 feet away. He waved casually and said, "Hi guys," and Sakura snapped, "Where the hell were you?" Naruto winced at the volume. He now knew that he shouldn't go into full battle mode close to a furious Sakura because the volume would kill him. "I felt ill last night for some reason and it kept me up, so I slept late this morning, sorry." Sakura glared at him, and Sasuke simply humphed. "Yo, and you're late" were the only words that Kakashi said when he arrived an hour after Naruto. Sakura screamed, "Liar," and the three men winced at the volume. "I got lost on the road of life," Kakashi said, with a creepy eye smile. He then took out 2 bells on strings and tied them to his belt, saying, "Your objective is to get these bells 1 each." "But sensei, there are only 2 bells," was Sakura's first reaction when she realized something was awry. With a single eye that was clearly amused, the Cyclops stated, "Correct, Sakura, that means only 2 of you can pass. Those who get a bell pass the test." The 3 possible genin were thinking a number of things. "I must pass, I will pass," Sasuke said, adding that they would just slow him down. "Oh no," Sakura said, "if I fail, I will be separated from my Sasuke-kun." Kakashi gave Naruto a suspicious look as he thought, "What kind of bullshit test is, son of a bitch, it's about teamwork? Has the so-called dead last with a mysterious bloodline figured it out?" Kakashi asked, recalling something just before he began the test. "Naruto, did you find anything on your bloodline?" Kakashi nodded, and he took out an alarm clock and set it to "You have 3 hours to complete the test." Naruto abruptly adopted a dejected expression. "Well, yeah, it's completely original, no recorded bloodline or even mythical bloodline listed in the library came even close. I'm planning to go to the old man, Hokage, to find out if his private records might have anything. I doubt I'll get a look, but he would probably look for me." Kakashi sighed. This was likely to be another team that he would fail. The council had proposed that he take Sasuke as an apprentice, but he refused to do so. Those jerks on the council had attempted to use Obito's passing as an excuse to teach the Uchiha alone, but he had nearly given in when he recalled that Obito had valued teamwork above all else and that he was the only one who could teach him once he awoke his Sharingan team. He took out the best book ever, or at least to him, and then a number of shuriken and kunai slammed into his body, causing him to stagger and vanish in a puff of smoke, leaving a log behind. Naruto laughed as he was in a tree quite a distance away with the Sharingan activated. He hoped he would learn something interesting, and Venom had helped by locking away all the information he had absorbed until he had time to learn from it. He smiled to himself when Sasuke used a fire technique, and then Kakashi used an earth or Doton (SP) technique to bury Sasuke up to his neck in the earth. He also saw through the genjutsu he had used against Sakura. Kakashi paused for a moment, clearly looking for Naruto, and finally settled down in an open clearing with his book out again. Now that the others had been intimidated, he had a chance of getting them to work with him as a team. He went first for Sasuke, the Uchiha, and he had a chance to convince Sakura to only follow the Uchiha. Even though he was at least 20 feet away, Naruto could still hear Uchiha grumbling and laughed. "Hey Sasuke, how are you? Fuck of loser. Oh, that's nice, and right before I was about to tell you how to win this little get-together. Oh well, goodbye." Naruto began to leave when he heard a groan. "Okay, tell me your plan." Sasuke growled once more, and Naruto laughed and turned around. Naruto swiftly dug Sasuke out and explained his strategy. "We need to work together, Sakura included. I'm fairly certain that if we work as a team, we'll pass even if we don't get the bells, but if we don't, you and Sakura will get the bells, so you will still pass, win-win." After they woke her up, Sasuke simply grunted and followed Naruto to Sakura. He explained his plan and ignored Sakura's brief tirade about how Sasuke had come up with it and that Naruto was a fool for making contradicting claims that Sasuke could do it alone. Sakura only agreed because Sasuke told her to, using her fangirl status against her. Kakashi smiled as he sensed both Sakura and Sasuke approaching him. He frowned. They must have ditched Naruto or just couldn't find him, as he couldn't sense the blonde anywhere. Sasuke and Sakura threw weapons at him, making him dodge with little effort. They soon ran out of projectiles and turned to taijutsu. Sakura's was pathetic textbook academy fighting stance, but with no speed or strength. Sasuke's was high gen, and the two attacking in tandem gave him a bit of a problem. He had to put his book away. He felt something slap his thigh. He passed it off as a glancing blow. Suddenly the bell rang. He smiled and shoo-shined to the training posts. The others arrived shortly. He missed the smug looks on the genins' faces. Well, since Sakura and Sasuke actually attacked me and Naruto did nothing. Naruto gets tied to the post. He moved forward to complete said activity when Naruto raised an index finger and twitched it side to side, making a sound. Kakashi raised a questioning eyebrow. His single visible eye widened as far as it could go when Sakura and Sasuke produced bells. He almost dropped his book at one hand touched where they had been. How? Naruto smiled and raised his fist, seemingly aiming at it. Kakashi, his hand tilted downwards and a long string of white rope shot out of wrist, hitting his book. Naruto shot his elbow backwards, the book snapping out of his hands. He threw the book to Sasuke before Kakashi could blink. Okay Kakashi, I know what that book is. I ran across its section in the library. He fought back a blush. His clones had been a little too literal in reading everything in Venom. It thought it would be a riot to let those thoughts be absorbed first. You're a pervert. They pass cause they got the bells. I know this is about teamwork, so we already passed, but just to be sure, if you don't pass us, Sasuke will burn the book. Kakashi looked absolutely horrified. Little did he know that a certain red-eyed Kunoichi Jounin was recording said incident for further use. He nodded and gasped out, "You passed." Sasuke tossed Naruto the book, who tossed it to his sensei. Kakashi hugged it to his chest, muttering about protecting it from bad men. Kakashi shoo-shined away. Sasuke smirked. "I can't believe that worked." Sakura nodded, absolutely speechless with anger at how perverted and slightly pathetic her sensei was. When he saw Guy approaching, Kakashi sighed and complained that his book was secure. He thought he smelled something burning and opened it for comfort, but then he heard an explosive note and boom. "I'm going to kill you, Naruto." "You didn't?" Sasuke asked Naruto, who was grinning broadly, and he laughed. "You bet I did." Sasuke groaned, hoping his teammate had escaped their sensei's retaliation. In the meantime, a purple-haired snake who hates Kunoichi grinned as she saw Kakashi's book explode in his face. He collapsed to the ground in tears and then screamed out who he would exact his revenge on. Anko grinned, indicating that she liked Naruto's fashion sense. The container undoubtedly contained balls that exploded Kakashi's valuable Ika book. Naruto hurried to the Hokage's office and was welcomed right away. "Hey old man, there's something I have to tell you," said Sarutobi, grinning. Naruto was the only person in Konoha he knew to show respect in such a casual manner. "He would call you old man when others said Lord Hokage." Naruto opened his mouth to say something else, but Sarutobi raised a hand to signal silence. He then touched the wall, giving the entire room a bluish tint, and he was unaware of the red eyes staring at him while he performed the technique. Sarutobi turned back to Naruto, looking into his familiar blue smiling eyes. They had a mischievous glint that the old man had come to fear. Always meant the blonde was up to something unpleasant. "I know about the symbiote, Naruto. I know about Venom." Naruto was utterly shocked. "How?" Sarutobi smiled. "I was there when the machine that brought Venom to this world arrived. I helped seal that glass vial up, though I didn't know about it until I saw the changes in you this morning. Let me guess, it's facilitating communication with Kyuubi." Naruto nodded dumbly. He shook his head in a theatrical head-clearing gesture and smiled slyly. "I know something you don't know, old man." Sarutobi began to sweat. He didn't like that tone. What is that, Naruto?" Naruto smiled wide and channeled chakra. Sarutobi stared uncomprehending. When he figured out what he was seeing, he gasped. Naruto smiled wide, a big foxy grin. "But wait, there's more." In the classic showman's pitch, Sarutobi once again stared uncomprehending, then fainted as he was staring at the Mangekyo Sharingan. He knew it for what it was, as each one was said to be different in appearance. Raising his head from his desk, Sarutobi simply gazed at Naruto, who possessed both the Sharingan and the ultimate level Sharingan. How? Venom can copy abilities from its host. A small part of Venom copied the Sharingan bloodline from Sasuke, and then with a little help from Kyuubi he activated it and upgraded it to its ultimate level, Naruto said with a broad smile, making the Hokage stutter. Anything else? Sarutobi nodded foolishly. The Byakugan, the Hyuga will kill you if they find out you've got it, Naruto said, nodding. But they'll kill themselves when they find out their clan head heiress gave me permission to copy hers. Sarutobi choked, then laughed uncontrollably. Even though Hayashi will never find out who gave you it, I'd love to be there if he found out Hinata gave it to you. He finished wiping tears from his eyes and sighed. If that's all, Naruto? Naruto snorted and scowled at the third, saying, Good, I bet you can't wait to start missions with your team. Sarutobi laughed and dispelled the silencing privacy jutsu, saying, Old man, you know that the missions we will be doing will only be D-rank. My clones read up on that in the library. I'm gonna send an overpowered shadow clone to work with my team, so I will still be learning about teamwork, though with a fangirl and an emo avenger I doubt I'll learn much. In the meantime I can train myself up. Hey old man, there was a book in the library with a small message written in handwriting that looks exactly like the 4THS, since he has a book or two about shinobi life, and it mentions a riddle. Those who wish to beat the dreaded and ancient enemy of all Kages need to utilize their friends of shadow to help conquer a seemingly immortal foe. Sarutobi waved and smiled before leaving, after giving it some thought. When the Kazekage heard a yell of "son of a bitch" from a distance as he was working and signing paper after paper, he looked around and brushed it off, supposing Gaara had killed someone. Naruto laughed when he heard the rather obvious indication that the third had solved the puzzle. As he was leaving, he glanced out the window of the Hokage's office and saw 5 Sarutobi working at his desk, while one was lounging on a couch, sipping sake and reading a small orange book. He laughed as he started to train, absorbing the information for his raid on the library, starting with the fundamentals. The first thing he really took in was the face that good chakra control makes good shinobi, so he did just that. The day after, he had created nearly 300 clones, including himself, to go tree climbing. He sat and dispelled the clones, swaying as the knowledge and experience affected him. He stood and walked calmly up the tree all the way to the top, smiling as he reached the bottom. He created another 200 clones, setting 100 to perfect the tree climbing exercise and the other 100 to follow the original to a nearby river and start practicing the water walking exercise. Naruto grinned to himself, realizing that he was also improving his already enormous chakra reserves by performing these control exercises. Hours later, he was completely soaked, and all of his clones were practicing water walking after mastering tree walking. Naruto grinned as his clothes threw all of the water out onto the ground, leaving him nearly completely dry. He stumbled home exhausted, knowing that this would go on for a long time. After a month, Naruto grinned as he carried on with yet another chakra control exercise. The Hokage had tested him in private, and he had low Jonin chakra control. He was thinking about the things he had mastered in the past month, including tree walking, water walking, running, rolling, and sitting, as well as hanging onto solid objects like a wall or roof with all of his various body parts. The hardest part was his head, as he couldn't really recall how many times he had fallen on his face. He was now balancing on the edge of a kunai that was buried handle first in the ground, and once he was done, he would move on to Senbon. He was fortunate not to have scarred and recovered quickly from the numerous times he slipped and cut open his finger. Unfortunately, he was unable to perform this kind of chakra control exercise with clones. Instead, he had 200 clones perform the kunai levitating exercise, which he only did when he was bored. He had each clone lift 2 kunai, however, because he lacked the necessary amount of kunai and the clone's clone kunai were not as heavy as real kunai. He had an additional 400 clones, 600 in total, change into kunai based on the clone's preferences. With a sigh, Naruto threw out all the clones and removed the kunai as he sensed Hinata coming. He had seen the chakra sensing technique, but since he had venom in him, he didn't really need it. Naruto grinned as Hinata assumed the gentle fist taijutsu stance, and he adopted the same one. Initially, he had copied her technique, but he had sneaked into the Hyuga compound and copied the entire style of two people he later identified as Niji and Hayashi. They never trained together and appeared to dislike one another, but he was able to learn the entire technique by watching both of them. Naruto smiled. The Hokage had actually bought Naruto some sake, under the table of course, when he found out he had stole their style and was training Hinata with it. Also apparently only Kakashi had caught on to the reinforced clone going on D ranks as he did the exact same thing. He had discovered this in the most peculiar way. He had almost been caught by Team 7 while on a D rank mission while he was buying groceries. He had dodged into a bookstore and come face to face with Kakashi. They both looked out the window and saw the team with the two clones. They looked back at each other and smiled, then chuckled. "I didn't see anything if you didn't," they said in unison, then chuckled again and went their separate ways. Naruto snapped out of his musings as 3 chakra points were closed on his chest, constricting his lungs. Hinata might not be able to see his points due to the symbiote, but he had made her read several medical books until she knew where they all were by memory. The symbiote nullified the Byakugan but not the style that went with it. To his ire, this further contemplation caused even more chakra points to be closed. He ducked back, a little taken aback by Hinata's smirking expression. "What's the matter, Naruto? You're nowhere near top for today," he said, shaking his head to indicate that nothing was seriously wrong. They started sparring. To an unfamiliar observer, it would appear to be some kind of martial dance, but to a trained or at least warrior's eye, it would be a smooth, merciless battle between two opponents who weren't holding back. An hour later, Naruto sat next to a panting Hinata, thinking about the girl who was resting her head on his shoulder. They couldn't really explain their relationship. They mostly acted like friends, kissing and hugging each other occasionally, but not yet. He smiled, happy that they would eventually become boyfriend and girlfriend, but not just yet, as his clone dispelled itself in a remote area. Then the news reached him, "Oh shit," and Hinata got up, staring at him with a curious, slightly worried expression. They had become close in just a month of getting to know one another and sparring, and they would have been excellent teammates because they could tell each other's thoughts by simple body language or facial expressions. He left after saying, "Oh, my clone was running out of time, and I have to go to a meeting about the next mission," so he excused himself to go to the bathroom and created another clone, though temporary till I get there. No time, got to go CYA Hinata-chan. Hinata smiled to herself as her hyperactive friend/semi-boyfriend vanished from view of her Byakugan. She had been hoping for an entire afternoon with Naruto, but she would get that at a later time. In the office of Hokage's, Kakashi noticed that Naruto seemed pale and appeared to be sweating profusely. He saw Sakura and Sasuke casting glances in his direction. He suddenly gulped and said out loud, "Oh shit, Kakashi-sensei, tell boss I'm sorry." He disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving a flummoxed pair of teammates and a chuckling Kakashi and Hokage and a smiling Irika who had just figured out what happened. "What was that, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi looked up from his book as Sakura asked a question. "Just wait a second and you'll find out." Sakura looked even more confused while Sasuke looked interested. Suddenly a knock on the window startled the genin. Kakashi walked over and opened it so Naruto could crawl in, smiling sheepishly. "Naruto, I can't believe you ditched your team with a shadow clone so you could train," scolded Kakashi, earning shocked and angry looks from his teammates. "Oh yeah, Kakashi-sensei, what about when I caught you in that bookstore and lo and behold I look out the window and there's my team with my shadow clone and another you? How do you explain that?" Kakashi hung his head in shame. He thought he could browbeat Naruto without his own sneakiness being revealed. He was wrong. Sakura and Sasuke were glaring at the pair of wrongdoers while Sarutobi and Irika were trying and failing to hold in chuckles. Naruto broke the tension by rubbing the back of his head, which was minus his hat. "He ditched that accessory a while ago, just go in the way. My clone said this meeting was important, so what's up?" Kakashi chuckled and looked at Sakura, who looked away blushing with embarrassment. Sakura told the Hokage off for giving us. How did she put it? Stupid lazy-ass missions that old decrepit ninjas should do. Yes, that was it. Anyway, Lord Hokage said that he expected that outburst from you and that you'd say he is a old ninja. Sakura gained her senses before that happened. Anyway, he granted us a C rank. Naruto stared at him for a second, then at Sakura, who looked at the floor shuffling her feet. Then at Naruto. What he said next surprised everyone. She'd be right, you are old and decrepit, not to mention perverted. You should do D ranks. Sakura stared at Naruto and smiled, slightly glad that he had supported her. She then berated herself. Naruto was just an idiot. Sasuke's, Kakashi's, and Irika's jaws hit the floor at his audacity. Sarutobi just stared at Naruto for a full 3 seconds, who stared back with a foxy grin. Then both of them started to roar with laughter, earning further incredulous looks from everyone else. After all that, the Hokage decided to give us a C-rank escort mission, Naruto said, pausing his laughter to gaze up at Kakashi. Hey, where's our customer and when do we start? The people in the room were taken aback by this question alone. They thought he would bounce off the walls and shout about protecting princesses or something. Naruto snorted to himself, hee like I'd ever do that, and he signaled to the door attendant, who let their client in. A tall, scruffy-looking man entered with a half-empty bottle of sake. He looked like a bum. What the? These brats are what you're giving me. They look pathetic, especially the pink one and the one with a duck's ass for a hairstyle. The one in the coat looks alright. Naruto laughed as he prevented Sakura from killing their client. Sasuke simply glared, and it didn't help that Kakashi was laughing into his book. When he finally got Sakura to calm down, Naruto thought that even though she was a bitchy and abusive fangirl and that she had felt nice when he pulled her against his chest, he dismissed it because he had Hinata and that was all he needed or wanted, or so he thought. At least Kyuubi had other ideas. He grinned as he was dismissed, quickly memorizing the mission's few details and the meeting time. He had an hour until then, so he decided to go find Hinata, tell her about the mission pack, and leave. Hinata was currently training in her variation of the gentle fist style, learning how to fight alongside Naruto, who was more of a freestyle brawler than a master of a specific art. Had given her the fluidity in her moves to be able to use the gentle fist but be able to surprise her opponent by suddenly changing into something more aggressive and more powerful depending on your point of view. Her Byakugan was activated, and this was how she saw an excited Naruto approaching in a sprint towards her. She smiled. Naruto's abilities in stealth had increased so much she could only see him coming if he wanted her to. He soon skidded to a halt in front of her, almost bowling both of them over. Not that she would have cared. That would be nice, just lying here with him on top of me, while he starts to take off my bad Hinata, bad Hinata. She rubbed her nose, hoping to eliminate all evidence of her thoughts, but she failed. She blushed at the knowing look in Naruto's eyes as he smiled at her. She went crimson when he slowly looked down her body, then back up again. Hey Hinata, I got something to tell ya that's kinda good kinda bad, Naruto said, grinning as he watched Hinata try to stop thinking. He didn't need to see the nose bleed because he could tell what she was thinking. What is it, Naruto-kun? Hinata frowned, clearly indicating that he liked his posture but knew she wouldn't like it. Naruto shuffled his feet for a moment before he sighed. I got a C-rank mission, it's gonna take about a month. Hinata looked up. At first she was ecstatic that Naruto had gotten a mission that wasn't a D rank. She was a little jealous that he got to go on said mission. The sad he'd be gone for a month. That's okay Naruto-kun, when do you leave? He smiled at her, obviously glad she wasn't angry even though he knew she wouldn't be tomorrow. Hinata nodded, then suddenly glomped him, sending them both to the ground. Hinata giggled at his shocked expression, then before he could say anything kissed him. He didn't move or respond for a second, then kissed her back. Wrapping his arms around her, he deepened the kiss. They parted for air. Hinata laid her head down on his chest and sighed. She would miss this. During the academy she had been so shy, Naruto just talking to her would make her faint. Now just over a month later, she was lying in the middle of a training ground on top of him after kissing. She felt like, truth be told, she didn't know what she felt like, but she loved it. She sighed when her brain had to remind her that they weren't actually boyfriend and girlfriend, more like, well, she didn't know she had heard some of the other girls talking about friends with benefits, and she had asked her sensei Kurenai about it. Kurenai had blushed when asked and then giggled at Hinata's reaction to the explanation. Hinata had fainted. Hinata now believes that they were in the early stages of friends with benefits, such as being friends, then good friends, then best friends, then close friends. Suddenly, Hinata discovered something very significant, and she spoke up, causing Naruto to faint to her astonishment. The day after, Sakura scowled. Naruto wasn't acting like himself, but then again, he had been acting strangely lately ever since he activated his bloodline. He was staring off into space, his expression constantly shifting from one of dazed wonder to one of concern and back again, and she heard him mutter, "Why did she have to say something like that?" "Who said what?" she asked, as her curiosity got the better of her. Don't worry about it, Sakura." As Sasuke arrived, she turned and started her usual consoling routine, asking him out and discussing their mission, utterly oblivious to the fact that he wasn't speaking to her. After persuading his group that he was indeed Kakashi and not a fraud, which prevented him from suffering a terrible death, Kakashi soon arrived, only around 30 minutes late. Naruto yawned. Things were becoming monotonous. He was practicing combining his chakra sense with his venom or spider sense, which was giving him a lot of detail, but he had to get them to work first. Combining the two was challenging but rewarding. His chakra sense expanded from a 10-meter radius to about 300 meters, but it also allowed him to assess the size, strength, and potential danger level of all life within the sphere. This exercise was not physically taxing or particularly draining of chakra, but it was wearing down his brain because it required a lot of focus. He looked at the others and noticed human life signs about a foot away from what appeared to be the road. They were stationary and defiantly shinobi, but not very powerful ones. He grinned, knowing they were there before the others, way before. As the group passed the puddle, it vanished, revealing two men wearing breathing masks and gauntlets connected by a spiked chain. They were about to attack Kakashi when Naruto shot a web at him and pulled him out of the way, either unaware of or unconcerned with his plan. Kakashi had sensed them just as the puddle came into view. He had noticed earlier that Naruto had been doing something with his chakra and had sent a small pulse of chakra that dissipated after 10 meters, but later he had stiffened, smiled, and started to finger his kunai pouch. Sakura went over the attack. It had been so sudden that she had frozen, but it ended just as quickly. Naruto had pulled Kakashi to safety, then his both of the enemy in the eyes with his webs and tied them up with his webs as well. When Kakashi asked why he used his webs, he said they give him an advantage only on surprised people. Otherwise it could be dodged, cut up, or simply broken if the person was strong enough. Kakashi had accepted this with a smile, saying something about the element of surprise is key to a ninja's survival. Sakura had been thankful that she hadn't had to fight, and also at the reassuring smile Naruto gave her. But now she was worried. Sasuke was glaring at Naruto's back. She had no idea what was wrong. Well, she did, but her infatuation was trying to beat back her rational mind and it was losing. Sasuke was jealous of Naruto's power and was intimidated by it. This, however, didn't fit in the fangirl's view of the world. Sasuke was a powerful genius prodigy ninja who was too shy to admit he was in love with said pink-haired fangirl. He couldn't be intimidated by the dead last of the class even if he did have some freaky spider-like bloodline. Sakura sighed as she failed yet again to get Sasuke to talk to her. This was going to be a long trip.